All right. Hello, AAF East Texas and beyond. This may be shared beyond just our club, but we are excited today because we have Sophie Rogers, who is the AAF District 10 American Advertising Awards Chair. And as you guys know, this is our second year bringing the American Advertising Awards back to East Texas. So a lot of people that are going to be watching this webinar are either new to entering the American Advertising Awards or it's their first time entering in 15 years. So this is a great refresher and an update on everything American Advertising Awards from the person who knows all the information, Sophie Rogers.
Thank you so much. I'm scared at that last line that knows all the information.
Knows
I do
more information than us.
I do. If there is anything I don't know, I do pride myself. I'm pretty good about digging in and finding the answer, no matter how many people I might have to bother. Oh, hello, Crystal. Crystal's connecting. So I'm going to just get started. This is going to be just a general overview. I'm calling it the American Advertising Awards 101. So we'll just dig in. This is just going to be a top-down. Let me share my screen. Share screen. Share. All right. Can someone confirm that y'all can see that?
Yes, we can see.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to put that in full screen mode. Awesome. Okay. So just getting started. This is American Advertising Awards 101, so we'll be doing an overview. So let's just get started. What are the American Advertising Awards? So basically, the American Advertising Awards, it is an annual competition that recognizes excellence in advertising and marketing. So usually you'll hear people sometimes refer to them as the Addies. The Addie is actually the award you win, not the name of the competition. It is the American Advertising Awards. The awards celebrate creative excellence in various categories, including print advertising, digital advertising, broadcast, integrated campaigns, and more. So in essence, if it is a part of advertising, we've probably got a category for it in this competition. So whatever your niche mastery may be, there's probably a division of this awards program that is dedicated to what you're good at. It is the advertising industry's largest and most prestigious competition organized by the American Advertising Federation. This competition is open to individuals, agencies, and corporations across the United States. So let's bring that down from such lofty verbiage. Basically, the thing that is special about the American Advertising Awards is it is the most nationally recognized advertising competition in the nation. You could, so like, for example, if you transplant yourself, you move to a different state, you start a new career, you know, there are a lot of regional competitions specific to photography or, you know, something, or maybe graphic design, lots of graphic design competition, videography competitions, et cetera, et cetera. Now, here's where the American Advertising Awards are different. This competition focuses on all facets. There is no other competition like that. Additionally, most people know what the American Advertising Awards are, especially if they have been in this industry for any amount of time. They can look at a resume and immediately know what American Advertising Award is. Whereas some other competitions, they might not be as familiar. And again, this is open to freelancers, agencies, corporations, anything, as long as it falls into a category of advertising. And when I mean any category, there's something that we can put it in a category, I'm sure. All right, I'm going to move right along. I will say I have minimized all of my chats and stuff, so feel free to just speak out if you have a question, because I probably can't see the chat right now.
Monitoring it for you too. I'll stop you if we see something.
Okay, wonderful. So I kind of briefly touched on this. Why are they important? Winning an Addie Award is a significant achievement in the advertising industry and can provide recognition and validation for the creative work of individuals and agencies. It is also the most recognized industry award in the nation. Like I said, if you've been in this industry for a little bit, you might not know, but this is a tried and true awards program that has a lot of validity with people in this industry. I'm actually going to tell a bit of a funny story. So I was active in the American Advertising Awards as a student. So I won some student American Advertising Awards. And I managed to get a job right out of college, which was very nice. Appreciated that. But after about a year, I was ready to move on, learn something new. And there was a job that opened up that I really, really, really wanted. So I'm ready. I'm a graphic designer, just for reference. I've got my portfolio ready on my iPad. Obviously, I've spent hours running through it on my iPad. I'm ready to present. So I get to my interview for this job I so desperately want, and my iPad just doesn't work. No reason. It's charged. It's been working fine. It worked for who knows why. So I'm just here having a panic at my interview. And the person who interviewed me said, you know what? I've seen all of your awards at the American Advertising Awards, and I've seen your work. I know you've got a slew of addies, so I know your work is great. And then we just continued with the interview without me even showing a portfolio. So that kind of shows you the power of an American Advertising Award. Additionally, the award serves as a platform to showcase and promote innovative and effective advertising campaigns, helping to establish industry standards and benchmarks. I don't know how many times I have looked at a winner's book after the American Advertising Awards. I'm looking through the cream of the crop. I'm looking at the best, and I had just become so inspired. I go, I could utilize this for something I'm doing. Or I realize, hey, this is something that a lot of agencies are doing that I'm not doing in my own work. I need to compare to this so that I can help reach this benchmark that's been set by this gold national Addy winner. So the AAA can boost the reputation and credibility of advertising professionals and agencies, making them more attractive to potential clients and employers, as it demonstrates an individual's ability to produce high quality work. So I can definitely speak to this. On one hand, I personally come from a small in-house marketing team. So one of the best ways we can show that what we're doing is effective and what we're doing is of high quality is when we come back from the American Advertising Awards and we show, all of the big wigs in our company. We go, look, we've come home with X amount of American Advertising Awards, and it helps validate that. Another experience I had that I'll never forget is, I know this is kind of a industry fun thing that a lot of people do with their awards. So we were vetting a advertising agency in the Memphis area. And we walk into their beautiful lobby, and we look and we see an entire dumpster, like an industrial dumpster, in their lobby. And obviously, what's going on? So we look over, and it's all of the Addy awards they have won in how many ever years in this dumpster. And I know that almost seems like a negative to the Addy awards, but they had this little placard that basically talked about, like, we've achieved these great things through these American Advertising Awards. We've set the standard once and once again. We're proud, but the next day we aim higher. We go for the next step. But I will never forget going here, looking at an industrial dumpster full of American Advertising Awards, thinking, and including like lots of best of shows, going, oh my gosh, these guys know what is up. And we didn't even really need the interview after that. We were ready to sign on with them. So they're important because they really boost your reputation. On the student level, I also would like to mention, I don't know how many students we have in this area. I do believe East Texas has quite a few area colleges. I might be wrong. But for students, this is one of the best ways to add to your resume that you're a standout student. The work you're doing is above student level. As soon as you get an American Advertising Award on your resume, it creates a sense of this person is of the elite. So students very much so encourage you to at least try to submit some stuff so that you can start boosting your reputation early on. Additionally, I know East Texas is doing their gala this year. Additionally, it's incredibly it's a very important moment when the students are going to accept their awards and you see the same students going back and forth, and all of these representatives from different companies and potential employers are there, and they're watching you go back and forth, you know, receiving your awards. They remember the face with this resume that they've got on their desk maybe like 6 months later. So students, definitely recommend getting involved at the student level. All right, I'm going to move on unless there's something that we need to add there.
We're all good, no question, but we do have several universities and colleges in the area that we've touched base with, and we know the students are excited to enter. We're launching the student awards this year, and we expect a big turnout. Lots of the colleges are competitive around here and are excited to enter.
Oh, I love that. I love that. We actually, up here in Northeast Arkansas, we had a record-breaking number of students attend our Student American Advertising Awards night, which is kind of the night that we explain what the American Advertising Awards are, but we had a record-breaking number of students this year. So maybe we're going to see a really big influx in District 10 on the student category. That'd be great. All right, so I'm going to move along. Let's talk about judges. So who are these judges? Who are these people that are taking your precious work that you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into to be able to come in and go, yes, this is great, or no, not so great? Who are these people? So judges for every tier of the competition, local, district, and national, are selected every year who have exhibited a master level of understanding of the advertising industry. The judges change every year. Additionally, judges may not judge entries in areas they are familiar with. So, and I'll move on to how are they selected. Judges are selected through AAF networks and databases. All judges must be experts in the advertising industry. The American Advertising Awards chair, so I believe Cole is the chair for East Texas, correct?
That's right.
Cole is the chair for the East Texas local level. I am the district chair for the District 10. They're responsible for selecting a very diverse and unbiased group of judges to ensure ultimate fairness for the competition. Lots of words, I know. So when we go through the judging process, normally there are multiple people in our databases, whether these are Excel spreadsheets, word of mouth, networks, maybe it's a speaker that we had who have proved that they are experts in their field and they have the justification to judge other people's entries. So that's step one. Are they qualified to judge? They have to have a pretty extensive resume. They have to show a level of expertise. Obviously, we don't want somebody with just a moderate understanding of the work. Two, obviously, these judges will have areas of expertise. For example, like I said, graphic design. So one thing your chairs try to do is they go through their judges and they try to assemble a team that's going to have, okay, here's somebody who can really work with the visual parts. Here's somebody that really understands full spectrum. Here's copywriting. They try to make sure they have a group of judges who can cover every aspect of the advertising industry. So additionally, we do try to have quite a bit of diversity. So that can be cultural or regional. So for example, in Arkansas, that's where I'm from, in case I don't know if I mentioned that. In Arkansas, we try to make sure that we don't just have all Southern judges, right? So we kind of think in quadrants. So we'll go Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, and maybe, we might have a judge from Texas or so, but we try to make sure we get different perspectives. And why is that important? I have seen in multiple categories where you get varied opinions based on the different regions. And the important thing is making sure that the pieces we're developing for advertising communicate to the target audience. So those discussions are had. It's very interesting. Additionally, it's good to try to find a bilingual person. So for example, I know in Texas, it's very important as a District 10 chair, it's very important when I accommodate for Texas to try to have a Spanish speaking judge. That way we are judged completely fairly, so that we can make sure that nothing is lost in translation, quite literally. So that is a charge I have as a district judge. So to shorten this, biased or unbiased, we don't want them biased, unbiased, diverse, and experts in their field. Additionally, I kind of touched on this. We only select judges that have no idea who these people are that are submitting, or these businesses, and don't have a close tie. Like I couldn't judge the Arkansas. I couldn't judge the Arkansas competition. I could judge East Texas at some point, but I couldn't judge locally. Austin Sandy could not judge East Texas. That keeps it fair.
Can I pop in and give a little commercial for who our judges are this year? Cole and the committee have done that selection process. They've gotten 3 very qualified judges from out of the market. And just like you said, our committee looked for judges who touch different aspects of the industry. Some are creatives and some do a little more strategy. So our first judge is currently living in Orlando, Florida, but has lived in some other places as well. Formerly worked for Disney's Yellow Shoes Creative, launched a lot of roller coasters at Disney, did the digital advertising, the TV advertising. His name's Matt Stewart. He now owns his own agency in Orlando. So he's one of our judges, bringing kind of some name recognition and some star power. We also have Ray Schillens, who owns his own radio and podcasting group in Houston and has a very big history and a career in the broadcast industry. So that'll touch that realm for us. And then we have photographer and equine photographer and professor from Arkansas, Kim Vickery, who was excited to judge our work. She actually reached out to us and offered to do that. So we've got 3 people with very in-depth resumes, long careers, and a variety of experience. And they're out of market, and they're unbiased judges, which is a little different than how we do our East Texas Innovation Awards, where we vote locally and you may know the people. So these people are removed from East Texas and are going to look at our work and not know who did any of it, and that'll be great. They'll just use their expertise and their backgrounds to judge those.
Wow. Okay. I'm a little jealous. East Texas has got the lineup of judges. That is insane. I'm side noting from this presentation for just 1 second. Matt Stewart probably has no idea, but I had one experience with him, a very lucky experience, when I got to visit the Disney studios, and he said something to me that literally changed the trajectory of my entire career. And I still, to this day, 7 years later, I live by the words he said. He said, I can get lots of good designers, but I am always looking for people with ideas. People are I can't find enough people with ideas. And ever since then, I have always been dedicated to being an ideas person. Wow. Sorry. I just got a little emotional because he has no idea what he did for my career. Anyway, maybe we'll start talking about the American Advertising Awards now. Sorry about that. But just so you know, one of your judges loves a good idea. Note. But yeah, so that is the judging process and how we select the judges, not the judging process. So now we will talk about the judging process. How are entries judged? So this is a little bit different from way a lot of competitions are set up, but it makes it the most accessible and the most fair, honestly. How are entries judged? Each entry is judged solely on the individual piece and the category the piece is submitted to. Pieces in the same category are not compared to each other. So what does that mean? You know what? I'm going to skip ahead to how are entries scored and then come back to this. How are entries scored? Entries are scored on a 1 to 100 scale. The standard, this varies per club. They all have their own little guides and rubrics, but the standard is usually 85 to 100 is a gold, 70 to 85 is a silver. Since each entry is scored individually, it is possible to have multiple awards per category or none. Additionally, there is usually a best of show, a mosaic award, special judges awards, and other local level awards. Let me touch on these two paragraphs first. So let's talk about not being compared. Okay, so let's say in the logo category, there are 6 logos. There is no, this is the first place logo, this is the second place logo, this is the third place logo. That's not how it works. Each logo is pulled, and based on advertising, just general quality of the logo, what is the rules of a good logo? That logo is given a score out of 0 to 100, and what that score is what that logo gets. So let's say I score one logo, I could score one logo an 85 and it's going to get a silver, but 2 more logos I gave a perfect 100. Those 2 logos still get a gold. So essentially what could happen is you could have 6 logos that all win gold. You could also have 6 logos that win nothing, and nothing is won out of that category. And I just use logos as an example. This is for any of them. So they're judged individually based on the category. The other important thing I really want to bring up is the judges. So going to the next paragraph, what can the judges see? The entries are completely anonymous. Judges can see the category you have submitted and the files you have uploaded to be judged. So literally, I was actually going to try to pull this up, but I couldn't because we're not in a judging period right now. As somebody who's judged, here's what happens. I get a list of categories. So I look in my portal, I see a list of categories. I click on a category and it'll say you have 15 entries in this category. So I just go down the category and I start scoring based on that category. The only things I can see is the category, the entrant number, which it's just a string of numbers. It doesn't say like Sophie Rogers 700, blah, blah, blah. It's just numbers. It means nothing. And then I see the files you'll upload, and you can upload multiple files, links, all that, video. You can upload I'm not going to say as much as you want, but I have very rarely seen anybody reach the limit of things they can upload. I would be surprised. So that's all a judge can see. So that is why paying attention to what category you're submitting to is critical to your success. Let me give you an example. So I was judging a competition, and I was in the student category, and they had submitted, we will touch into this later just to not get confused, but they had submitted the same piece into 2 different categories. One was as an advertising campaign piece, and one was under cinematography. So they had submitted a video to those 2 categories. So when I got to the advertising campaign piece, I watched this video, and oh my gosh, one of the most beautifully shot pieces of cinema I've ever seen. Like A24 needs to call these kids up. They're not kids, they're students. Sorry. These students up and hire them on the spot. They are ready. Steven Spielberg, where you at? I couldn't believe it. The cinematography. However, I could not tell you what that video was supposed to be advertising. It made no sense as a piece of advertising. Beautiful made no sense as a piece of advertising. So in that category, I scored it very low because it wasn't effective as a piece of advertising. In the category for cinematography, which the focus is quality of cinematography, very high. So that's why it's very important to focus on the categories. So that is something to focus on, and the categories can be found in the professional rule book. I have a link to that in this presentation. But yes, so the entries are judged individually based on category and not compared to others. So like I said, 6 logos, some got gold, some got silver, maybe none win anything. So keep that in mind.
Can I pop in with a quick question?
Yeah.
Are you diving into the presentation of the entries at all for in the presentation today, or is that something I should ask now?
I was gonna discuss that a little bit
Okay.
later because I'm going to actually go like I'm submitting a piece. So we were gonna look at that.
We have a few members who were curious on what the entry should look like to best appeal to the judges, but it sounds like that's further. Sorry.
Yes, so we will talk about that, and I will also give my trick. Um, the short answer, which we will get to this more in depth later, the short answer is basically when you get to the portion of submission, all you have are these file uploads, right? You have these multiple file uploads, you might have a URL link, you might have videos. The way I have done mine in the past, well, for the past 5 years that I've been submitting to the American Advertising Awards, I usually make kind of like a booklet PDF so that it's all one entry. So if you're doing like a brand, just making one PDF entry and submitting that as one file versus multiple file links. But like if you have a booklet and then maybe you want to include a website link, that's fine too. But for me, the easiest as a judge is to view it in a booklet form where I can look at each piece. That's my personal opinion, but also there's no set rules, but that's how as a judge personally and as somebody who's submitted, that's how I always do it. I always do well. And as a judge, I always appreciated the people who did do kind of like a large form booklet with everything that they want me to look at in one place.
Something that kind of brought it up for an entry from last year, it was logos and I've done it before too, where I've simply entered a logo on a white background and said, "Here's my logo." But I think there's also proof that judges prefer to see what that logo may have looked like in use, whether it's a mock-up or photos of the real product that the logo was used on or whatever. But that's more just of a presentation preference that I've noticed through my
Yeah,
years.
and I think this brings up a good point. Remember, your judges are people who look at design work or advertising work all day long. They are visual people and they like pretty stuff. So while yeah, you could submit like a piece of you could submit a picture of your logo, or you have the right to go in and put it in a mock-up or show the color variations. Basically, as long as you're not breaking the rules in the rule book, it is, and submitting multiple logos or anything. So like for me, what I'll usually do is, so in my booklet, if I'm submitting a logo, I'll have my main logo, then I'll show all white, all black. And this isn't a rule. This is how I personally do it. I'll do like my main logo on the same sheet. I might have all white, all black. Next sheet, same logo, but here's my color variations, moving it along, and maybe I'll have a page that has like 4 mock-ups of like, here's how it is in use. So you do want to try to make your, so whether that's through product photography or mock-ups, it's usually a good idea to show the judge how versatile whatever it is you're doing, show your judges how it looks. But we'll get more in depth in that a little later. Any questions on the judging process? What can the judges see? How are entries scored? Okay, I'll move along. So this is kind of, we were going to talk about this. How do I submit? Entries are submitted virtually. So what does that mean? Well, like I said a little earlier, mainly videos, photography, little booklets. Pre-COVID, we would actually have to send the physical pieces. It was all physical, and it was a nightmare. So virtual is a blessing. Plus, if you are a poor freelancer or poor student who doesn't have $500,000 printing budget to get things printed well, it was definitely a lifesaver. So I have linked in here the East Texas submission portal and then a link to all the submission portals. I do want to go through these. I am kind of keeping watch on the time. I believe we're going through to 12:30, but I'm actually going to come back to this. I think that would be a little bit better. So we'll walk through the submission process as if I'm actually going to submit something. So I feel like I lost my train of thought. But yes, so it's virtual only, and I do get this question quite a bit. So I'm a bit of a print snob myself. So when I've got a beautiful like UV, or I've got or maybe I have a piece that's folded really intricately, and that is what really makes the piece, like seeing it as flat art's not going to do much. We have plenty of entries who, oh, so like last year at our local competition, we had an entrant who had this box that if you opened it a certain way, something popped out. So we want to make sure that we can see that, because that's the effect. So you can just upload, you can take a quick video showing how that works and upload that, and that's totally kosher. And judges like it. It's fun for them. So that's something to keep in mind if you're like, well, mine has a real physical aspect. What do I submit? So here, the American Advertising Awards, at least on the local and district level, is a virtual only submission process. That I am putting a big asterisk by, because I was looking over the rule book and it did say something about certain entries needing physical submissions at the national level. But I don't know if that is a piece left over in the rule book from years past. I'm not quite sure on that, but I can speak on the district level. I don't want y'all sending stuff to my house. So we will be doing virtual only. So asterisks on that, I would have to ask about that, but I was thinking about that last night. Okay, so I'm going to move right along. So this is just various notes. This is random stuff that I kind of thought of last minute. Your entries must have been produced within the past year. For this year's competition, all work had to be produced between January 2023 and December 2023. So if you had a piece in 2022 that you did not submit to the Addies that, or the American Advertising Awards that year, and you're like, this would kill, sorry, you can't do it that year. It has to be new work. All work must be real work that was made for a client, no spec work. I want to also asterisk this. I think I'm saying that word wrong. Anyway, I do want to make a note on this. This is not the case for students. So if you do a student project and you have to do a reinvent like a Pepsi commercial, you're allowed to submit that as a student. Now, if me as a freelancer was like, you know what, I'm just going to redo Walmart real quick. I'm just going to redo that. You can't submit that unless Walmart hires you to do that. You can. But if you're just doing it for fun, you can't do that. Best of show is determined from all gold winning submissions, not the top scoring piece. This one is a little bit strange for a lot of people, because they go, well, why wouldn't the piece with the top score get the best of show award? So here's really the explanation of that. There's two factors. One, okay, a perfectly executed logo that might receive a 97 is great. But the more effective piece of advertising might have been a commercial, right, that scored a 95. But as a piece of advertising and its effectiveness in advertising and how it resonates with a person, the logo might not have that as much gusto as this commercial that maybe had a technical flaw, but as a piece of advertising, it was a better piece. So usually the way this works for selecting best of show, all clubs have a little bit different. But this is just the general how it usually works, because we get a lot of questions on this part. Usually what happens is the judges come together, usually on a Zoom call, and they are given all of the scores, all of the pieces that won a gold. And from there, they pick. So number one, what is the truly most effective piece of advertising and had the best idea, had the best work? Two, we hate to say this, but everyone knows advertising is not 2 + 2 = 4. Art, creativity, there's not an end answer. So it's subjective. So maybe there's a situation, because at this point, your judges are discussing. So maybe there's a situation where your judges come together and they're all talking about this one piece. And because they judged it at the beginning, maybe they were judging just a little bit differently. So maybe they scored it a little lower, or maybe they're talking about it and one of the judges points out something like, oh, did you notice that they did this? And this other judge didn't notice it. And they go, oh, wow, no, I didn't see that little subtle message. That makes that so much cooler. So that's why we don't just automatically go with what the top scoring piece is. A lot of the times it is the top scoring piece. I'm not going to tell you it's not going to ever be the top scoring piece, but it does not always have to be the top scoring piece. So let's move on to all gold Addy winners will auto forward to the district level. So East Texas, this is your local level. This is the step one, tier one. You're submitting to the local level. All gold winners will auto forward to the district level. If you win a gold at your local level at East Texas, you just sit pretty, all right? You enjoy the day and just know that your entries have been forwarded to my competition. Now, if you win a silver at the East Texas, at that point, your representative will reach out to you and go, hey, congratulations, you won a silver. At this point, you are given the option to forward the entry to the next level. You can forward if you want. You are just required to fill out a form and pay the entry fee in our portal. I cannot remember off the top of my head what that entry fee is, so I do apologize. But there is an entry fee if you want to forward a silver. Anything below a silver cannot be forwarded. I do always like to remind people advertising is subjective and different judges have different perspectives, because remember, it's a different group of judges. So this specific scenario I'm going to discuss, at the time we also had a bronze tier. We no longer have a bronze tier, but at the time we had a bronze tier. So at my local level, I had a logo that I was so proud of, and it only got it received a bronze. And of course, in my head, this was one of my babies. I had really worked hard on this one. I was like, this is best of show. Y'all are all crazy. So I submitted it to the district because I was like, try again. And at the district level, it won a silver. So just keep in mind, different strokes for different folks. So this one is a big one that a lot of people have asked me about. You cannot submit the same piece to the same category to multiple competitions. Let me walk through that. Okay. Let's say you are an agency and you have a client in Chicago, okay? And you are an agency based in Tyler, Texas, okay? So your client in Chicago wants to submit the commercial that you shot to the Chicago American Advertising Awards in cinematography. That's great. They can do that. But you are not allowed to then go to East Texas and submit the same commercial under cinematography. So you can either submit all of your pieces to one category, to one competition, or if you do have a client elsewhere, they can submit to a different category, but you can't double dip. That's the main thing. One entry cannot double dip into the same category. Now, clear as mud, I know. Here's the thing that people get a little confused on. So let's say I have a brochure I have written, okay? I want it to be judged on its copywriting, in digital publication, and branding. I'm allowed to submit that same piece to all three categories. That is totally fine. You can submit the same piece to as many categories as it fits into. The difference is I cannot submit my magazine to the copywriting category in the local competition of East Texas and the local competition of Chicago. Clear as mud, I know. Does anybody need me to reword that in a different way?
Well, that makes sense. And we check our entries too, among the other, when we know that an agency may have clients in other clubs and things like that. We've had a couple of experiences there where we just double check and make sure nobody's double dipping to prevent anybody from being eliminated from the competition or anything, just to kind of protect our members.
Yeah, good. So yeah, that is the end of the presentation. I am going to walk through. I have, we're ending at 12:30, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I was going to go back and actually walk through the submission process as if I was submitting something. But before I go back and do that, do we have any questions or things that I need to elaborate on?
Not seeing anything in the chat, so I think we're good to go.
Okay. Ready? Sweet. Okay. Let me, oh, I have a chat notification now. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. Where are we at? Okay. I am so mad, and I hope the people who are watching this, I submitted a earlier version of this presentation that I had forgotten to spell check because I did it very late at night, and I was so proud of myself this morning. I read through it and I was like, I've got a new version that I spell checked like an adult. And don't you know, this entire presentation was the one where I didn't spell check it. So I'm only a little embarrassed, but I promise the version that I have sent along does have proper grammar and spelling. So my apologies, but let me share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So I am in the Northeast Arkansas submission portal. It all looks identical. None of this will change for East Texas. But I already have an account for Northeast Arkansas. So I wanted to make sure I got in here. So first of all, these fees are set by your club. You'll have to this is the fee for Northeast Arkansas. It'll be different in East Texas or maybe not sure. You can also, most places will have the rules, your professional entries and student entries. You can check the rules here. I've also got it pulled up here and linked. I will briefly look over this real quick. Are you seeing the rules and categories?
Yes, and we've got that available on our website too for folks to read.
I won't read this to you, but just this is what you will go to. So this is the category list. And honestly, your best bet is to just start reading to figure out where you want to put what you've got in places. Okay. So submit professional entries, submit student entries, obviously, which one's applicable. So I've already made an account. When you get to the homepage, if you haven't made an account, it'll make you set up an account like anything. So I'm going to submit a professional entry. I want to begin a new entry. Okay. So first is my company / organization. This is my company I work for. So if I'm submitting for my company, I'd change this name. If I was doing my freelance, I'd change that name. You select your member status if you're not an AAF member or an AAF member, easy. Street address, zip code, phone number, cell phone, secondary contact. Why do we need all this? Really, this is just to message you if we needed a situation like if we're looking over entries and we go, hey, buddy, you submitted this video to the photography category. Do you want us to switch that around? Or just if there's something we need to confirm, it's good to have that there so we can make sure we can get to you. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so this is where we get a little hairy. So this is, oh, cool. This is new. So remember I was discussing, or maybe it's not new and I've just never done it. So I mentioned if you would like to submit an entry to multiple categories, choose your category and then add another category. So that's pretty cool. Didn't know you could do that. That way you don't have to make multiple, you don't have to go through this portal multiple times, which is cool. So woohoo, that's nice. Category. So this gives you a very, very, very small explanation of things. I would definitely refer back to the big catalog, but already know what you're going to do. So I'm just going to pick one, print advertising, and this will always have some sort of explanation behind it. So I'm going to say I'm doing print advertising, and I'm going to do branded content and entertainment. And again, this will give you a notice to remind you Okay, I'm gonna do magazine advertising. Okay, so for example, this one is advertising that appears in publications, so on and so forth. And then sometimes there's even a subcategory. And it keeps going. So subcategory, full page or less, spread, multiple pages or insert, or an entire campaign. We're just going to say spread, multiple page or insert. Now, one thing to note is if I did a magazine advertising campaign, usually campaigns are charged at a higher rate than a single entry. So if I wanted to show one page of a magazine, that would probably be considered a single entry. But if I want to show the whole campaign, that might cost more. So I'm going to say a spread. We'll say a spread. The entry title is Sophie Dummy magazine. I will say the entry title is another thing that the judge can see. So this is a little cheat from pro tip from somebody who so for example, I had a logo last year that won a special judges award, and it was called it was called the Poo Crew is what it was for, right? But I usually like to do a little Poo Crew pet waste disposal company logo. I like to do something like that just so that my judges might have a little bit better idea than if I just randomly wrote Poo Crew for my logo. So in this one, pardon?
Also will help with trophy printing as well, or engraving. There have been times where people will title their entry the file title, which might have underscores in it, or .mp4, and you don't necessarily want that announced at the gala or included on your trophy. So think about how you want this memorialized forever as well.
Yes. So method of distribution, you pick how this was. I'm going to say this was in a magazine. Obviously, you could do other, and then you kind of mention that. So we'll say magazine. You pick your language. Was this work done pro bono? So this is important because certain awards cannot be awarded to pro bono items, and certain awards can only be awarded to pro bono items. So an answer to this question is required for all entries in the public service category. Entries outside these categories do not need to answer this question. So just keep that in mind. Client information. So this is the advertiser. So if my client was Kroger, I'd want to put Kroger's information in here. But like if you're an in-house company, so like for me, my client would be Optus. Is this work your firm did on behalf of another agency? You just pick yes or no. So I'm going to just get that in there. Okay, save it. Next. Do you have any internet or interactive entries to be judged? So do you have something that needs a URL? This is where I'd put the URL. Or no. So please upload a version to be used in our award show gala. What do I upload here? You can see the rules, you can see FAQ. So again, so in this category, I have 5 files I can load, and one video. So what I usually do is, again, that like PDF booklet, and just here, here's what I can do. Let's see. I am not going to upload my FSA information. But you know what I can do? Y'all are just going to see all in my desktop. Let's see. You know what? Never mind. I'm just gonna, I was trying to do something. I am going to upload this presentation. But yes, you can do a whole PDF. And as you can see, here it is. You can, and then I can view it in full screen, kind of get a gist of what it looks like. So again, and you could do that with more files. Save it. Next. So this is very important. So all credits must be entered on this form at the time of entry. You may not be permitted to make further edits to the credits section once your entry has been finalized. So this is very, very important. So let's say you worked on a team. You would want to list everybody on the team who worked on the project, or if you had you would just want to make sure that you give everyone the credit that needs to have credit. We have had situations where we would, sorry, I've got to type all this in. Austin, you work at Optus now. Congratulations. And then you would put, do you want another credit? So this is a very important step because there have been situations in the past where somebody has come to our club afterwards and said, hey, that piece won best of show and I worked on that and I had no credit. And that's a big deal. So then we had to launch an investigation. So please, please, please make sure that if there's anybody that needs some kudos, give them the kudos. And if I want to add another one, I can keep going. I'm not even sure when the credit lines end, but you can add a lot. So terms and conditions, by entering I accept and agree to be bound by the rules and acknowledge that AAF is the affiliate and its affiliated clubs and districts may use, reproduce, exhibit, and publish my entry in connection with the American Advertising Awards competition and associated events and activities in all media now known or hereafter devised, blah, blah, blah. And this is the big one. I confirm this entry first appeared in 2023. That's a big one. So when you click this button, you're agreeing. So I verify that everything I've put is accurate. I acknowledge that proper rights were obtained for use of any elements of the entry that were not original. So if you use stock imagery or a photo, you paid for it, or you have, you took it, or somebody gave you permission. Agree to submit documentation deemed necessary for review. So what could that be? That could be a situation where maybe we don't believe, we want to confirm that it was made in 2023. You might have to submit something to that. I release the entry for internet, broadcast, and or print. Basically, when we get the entry, there's a chance we might use it to advertise the American Advertising Awards, whether that be books, social media, on our website. But yeah, so that's what that's talking about. I verify that the entry was created within the local MSA of the competition. So I cannot off the top of my head remember the exact mileage, but basically, if you come from a place that does not have an immediate local chapter, you have to submit to the closest chapter to you. So if you're in East Texas right now and you've got a club, you can't just for fun submit to the Arkansas competition just for fun. The only rule is, kind of what we talked about. I had a client in Chicago. We wanted to submit it to the Chicago Addies kind of thing, American Advertising Awards. So that's what that's talking about. I understand that I may be required to provide proof of performance of my entries. If unable to do so, my entries may be disqualified and any entry fees for these entries will not be refunded. I understand. Basically, if you submit something and you didn't actually design it, we're going to keep your money because shame on you. I understand. Basically, you're saying it complies with all the rules. You type in your name and you go add to cart. Add a secondary contact. Sorry, it'll also tell you, is your firm? No. Just as this kind of did, I had some things that I had skipped, but before I could submit it, it said, hey, can you fill this out? Okay, so then I will come here and I can either make another entry or I can check out. So if I wanted to submit some more pieces, I'd just click checkout and it's just a pretty standard checkout process. But yeah. You ever heard yourself talk for an hour and just go, man, I hate that?
Well, you did great, and we appreciate all your information. I was going to just chime in there on the geography part. We are officially landlocked now with AAF clubs all around us. So anybody that lives in the East Texas geography from Lufkin and Nacogdoches all the way up to Tyler and Longview will be required to submit to East Texas. There won't, because we have this official club in East Texas now, there's no need for them to enter into Houston, Shreveport, or Dallas anymore, unless they did work for a client in Shreveport. So just kind of to clarify, those are some questions we'll get here in East Texas. I know some specific agencies and students who may have that question. So pretty easy. Just know that if you're on this call or if you're watching this in the East Texas DMA, you just enter here in our East Texas competition.